All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get us started on our lesson for today. It really is mostly about kind of what you guys are going to end up doing with your own texts. You guys selected short stories earlier this week, and one of the things you're going to do today is send those short stories out of the folder in Schoology over into your lit essay working notebooks. It's going to be important that you have a copy of your story in that notebook because we're definitely going to be doing some annotating. So that's one of the things you will end up doing today. And the skills that I model today in our mentor text, which I also will be introducing to you, those will be the same skills that you will be in needing to practice on those short stories you put in your notebooks. So we'll get to all of that. Today, we're basically going back to a topic we've talked a lot about in the past. This idea of growing big ideas from character and from details about characters. Guys, we've studied characters. We've done this. We know what to look for. We know that precise language counts. And we really need to, in order to do these lit essays about character, we've got to take that thinking that we've already learned how to do in our reading unit and now take those ideas and try to put them down in writing in our lit essays. So that's the whole goal of what we're doing here. We are going to try to figure out some really good big ideas about our characters so that we can craft in a few days a box and bullets about a claim you can make about your character and back up with evidence from the text. Today, though, we're just going to start off by talking about picking out these big ideas that we might see emerging from our text when we start reading them. So I will be introducing our mentor text that we will work through as a class. But first, I want to just make sure we go over a little bit of reminders here. These are some good tools for you on this page. You'll notice here it's telling you specifically you are probably going to have to reread selected bits of your story. One read through is not going to do it for this. If we're studying these short stories, then we're probably going to have to reread it. Also, you're going to have to notice the details. You're going to have to think, talk, and write to explore specifically. Why did the author put this detail in particular into this story? The author does everything for a reason. We know that. We've been talking about that all year. But in this specific unit, and when we're talking about character, I want you to really dig into those specific details and try to figure out exactly why the author used the words they used, why they described the incidents that they describe, and realize that all of that adds up to what the author wants you as the reader to think about that character. So then you can turn around and turn that into your literary essay. This second thing down here, this little list, this is just some prompts. This is another one of those sentence starter lists that when you're stuck and you're not sure how to get started with writing your ideas or jotting ideas down, these will always help you to get kind of like, the ball rolling down the right path. All right? All right, guys, so here is our mentor text. It is called Raymond's Run by Toni Cade Bambara, and I love this text. I love this story. I love the characters. I love the voice of the main character, and I really like reading it aloud, but you guys know I like reading pretty much everything aloud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually mark, since you can't see, I want you to be able to follow along with me. So anytime that I finish a line, and sometimes I'm a little off when I'm doing it, but I'm going to try to mark each line with a purple dot at the end of it, and that will just indicate to you that that's the line that I'm on so that you can stay along and caught up with me. In the beginning here, you're going to notice some highlighting and some writing. I'm going to skip over that in the beginning because that is there for the actual work we will end up doing inside of our texts. And when I'm actually modeling today's skill. The first thing I want to do, though, is I just want to get this entire story read to you. So this is going to be kind of a long video. Whoever's watching the video with the kids, if you notice people start to get restless, then pause the video, let them stretch or whatever. That's okay with me. But I need them to be engaged and listening to this story, because this is going to be the story that we talk about throughout this entire unit. And this is where I'm going to model my skills that I want them to be able to turn around and reproduce in their own short stories. So guys, that's our goal today. Really be engaged learners and really listen to this story, okay? Here we go. I don't have much work to do around the house like some girls. My mother does that. And I don't have to earn my pocket money by hustling. George runs errands for the big boys and sells Christmas cards. And anything else that's got to get done, my father does. All I have to do in life is mind my brother Raymond, which is enough. Sometimes I slip and say my little brother Raymond, but as any fool can see, he is much bigger and he's older too. But a lot of people call him my little brother because he needs looking after, because he's not quite right. And a lot of smart mouths got a lot to say about that too, especially when George was minding him. But now, if anybody has anything to say to Raymond, anything to say about his big head, they have to come by me. And I don't play the dozens or believe in standing around with somebody in my face doing a lot of talking. I'd much rather just knock you down and take my chances, even if I am a little girl with skinny arms and a squeaky voice, which is how I got the name Squeaky. And if things get too rough, I run. And as anybody can tell you, I am the fastest thing on 2 feet. There is no track meet that I don't win the first place medal. I used to win the 20-yard dash when I was a little kid in kindergarten. Nowadays, it's the 50-yard dash, and tomorrow I'm subject to run the quarter-meter relay all by myself and come in first, second, and third. The big kids call me Mercury because I'm the swiftest thing in the neighborhood. Everybody knows that. Well, except 2 people who know better. My father and me. He can beat me to Amsterdam Avenue with me having a 2 fire hydrant head start and him running with his hands in his pockets and whistling. But that's private information. 'Cause can you imagine some 35-year-old man stuffing himself into pal shorts to race little kids? So, as far as everyone's concerned, I'm the fastest. And that goes for Gretchen, too, who has put out the tale that she is going to win the first place medal this year. Pfft, ridiculous. In the second place, she's got short legs. In the third place, she's got freckles. In the first place, no one can beat me, and that's all there is to it. I'm standing on the corner admiring the weather and about to take a stroll down Broadway so I can practice my breathing exercises, and I've got Raymond walking on the inside close to the buildings because he's subject to fits of fantasy and starts thinking he's a circus performer and that the curb is a tightrope strung high in the air. And sometimes, after a rain, he likes to step down off his tightrope right into the gutter and slosh around getting his shoes and cuffs wet. Then I get hit when I get home. Or sometimes, if you don't watch him, he'll dash across traffic to the island in the middle of Broadway and give the pigeons a fit. Then I have to go behind him apologizing to all the old people sitting around trying to get some sun and getting all upset with the pigeons fluttering around them, scattering their newspapers and upsetting their wax paper lunches in their laps. So I keep Raymond on the inside of me, and he plays like he's driving a stagecoach, which is okay by me so long as he doesn't run me over or interrupt my breathing exercises, which I have to do on account I am serious about my running, and I don't care who knows it. Now, some people like to act like things come easy to them, won't let on that they practice. Not me. I'll high prance down 34th Street like a rodeo pony to keep my knees strong, even if it does get my mother all uptight so that she walks ahead of me like she's not with me, don't know me, is all by herself on a shopping trip, and I am somebody else's crazy kid. Now, you take Cynthia Proctor, for instance. She's just the opposite. If there's a test tomorrow, she'll say something like, "Oh, I guess I'll play handball this afternoon and watch television tonight," just to let you know that she ain't thinking about the test. Or like last week when she won the spelling bee for the millionth time. "Oh, a good thing you got receive, Squeaky, 'cause I would have gotten it wrong. I completely forgot about the spelling bee." And she'll clutch the lace on her blouse like it was a narrow escape. Oh, brother. But of course, when I pass her house on my early morning trots around the block, she is practicing the scales on the piano over and over and over and over. Then in music class, she always lets herself get bumped around so she falls accidentally on purpose onto the piano stool and is so surprised to find herself sitting there that she just decides, just for fun, to try out the old keys. And what do you know? Chopin's waltzes just spring out of her fingertips, and she's the most surprised thing in the world. A regular prodigy. I could kill people like that. I stay up all night studying the words for the spelling bee, and you can see me any time of day practicing running. I never walk if I can trot, and shame on Raymond if he can't keep up. But of course he does, 'cause if he hangs back, someone's liable to walk up to him and get smart or take his allowance from him or ask him where he got that great big pumpkin head. People are so stupid sometimes. So I'm strolling down Broadway, breathing out and breathing in on counts of 7, which is my lucky number, and here comes Gretchen and her sidekicks. Mary Louise, who used to be a friend of mine when she first moved to Harlem from Baltimore and got beat up by everybody till I took up for her on account of her mother and my mother used to sing in the same choir when they were young girls, but people ain't grateful. So now she hangs out with the new girl Gretchen and talks about me like a dog. And Rosie, who is as fat as I am skinny and has a big mouth where Raymond is concerned and is too stupid to know that there is not a big deal of difference between herself and Raymond and that she can't afford to throw stones. So they are steady coming up Broadway, and I see right away that it's going to be one of those Dodge City scenes because the street ain't that big and they're close to the buildings just as we are. First, I think I'll step into the candy store and look over the new comics and let them pass. But that's chicken, and I got a reputation to consider. So then I think I'll just walk right straight on through them, or even over them if necessary. But as they get to me, they slow down. I'm ready to fight because, like I said, I don't feature a whole lot of chit-chat. I much prefer to just knock you down right from the jump and save everybody a lot of precious time. You signing up for the May Day races? Smiles Mary Louise, only it's not a smile at all. A dumb question like that doesn't deserve an answer. Besides, there's just me and Gretchen standing there really, so no use wasting my breath talking to shadows. I don't think you're going to win this time, says Rosie, trying to signify with her hands on her hips all salty, completely forgetting that I have whipped her behind many times for less salt than that. I always win, 'cause I'm the best, I say straight at Gretchen, who is, as far as I'm concerned, the only one talking in this ventriloquist dummy routine. Gretchen smiles, but it's not a smile, and I'm thinking that girls never really smile at each other because they don't know how, and they don't want to know how, and there's probably no one to teach us how, 'cause grown-up girls don't know either. Then they all look at Raymond, who has just brought his mule team to a standstill. And they're about to see what kind of trouble they can get into with him. What grade you in now, Raymond? You got anything to say to my brother, you say it to me, Mary Louise Williams of Raggedy Town, Baltimore. What are you, his mother? Sasses Rosie. That's right, Fatso, and the next word out of anybody, and I'll be their mothers too. So they just stand there, and Gretchen shifts from one leg to the other, and so do they. Then Gretchen puts her hands on her hips and is about to say something with her freckle-faced self, but doesn't. Then she walks around me, looking me up and down, but keeps walking up Broadway, and her sidekicks follow her. So me and Raymond smile at each other, and he says, "Giddy up," to his team, and I continue with my breathing exercises, strolling down Broadway toward the Iceman on 145th, with not a care in the world, 'cause I am Miss Quicksilver herself. I take my time getting to the park on May Day because the track meet is the last thing on the program. The biggest thing on the program is the maypole dancing, which I can do without, thank you, even if my mother thinks it's a shame I don't take part and act like a girl for a change. You'd think my mother'd be grateful not to have to make me a white organdy dress with a big satin sash and buy me new white baby doll shoes that can't be taken out of the box till the big day. You'd think she'd be glad her daughter ain't out there prancing around a maypole, getting the new clothes all dirty and sweaty and trying to act like a fairy or a flower or whatever you're supposed to be when you should be just trying to be yourself, whatever that is, which is, as far as I am concerned, a poor black girl who really can't afford to buy shoes and a new dress you only wear once a lifetime because it won't fit next year. I was once a strawberry in a Hansel and Gretel pageant when I was in nursery school and didn't have no better sense than to dance on tiptoe with my arms in a circle over my head doing umbrella steps and being a perfect fool just so my mother and father could come dressed up and clap. You'd think they'd know better than to encourage that kind of nonsense. I am not a strawberry. I do not dance on my toes. I run. That is what I am all about. So I always come late to the May Day program, just in time to get my number pinned on and lay in the grass till they announce the 50-yard dash. I put Raymond in the little swings, which is a tight squeeze this year and will be impossible next year. Then I look around for Mr. Pearson, who pins the numbers on. I'm really looking for Gretchen, if you want to know the truth, but she's not around. The park is jam-packed. Parents in hats and corsages and breast pocket handkerchiefs peeking up, kids in white dresses and light blue suits, the parkies unfolding chairs and chasing the rowdy kids from Lenox as if they had no right to be there. The big guys with their caps on backwards, leaning against the fence, swirling the basketballs on the tips of their fingers, waiting for all these crazy people to clear out of the park so they can play. Most of the kids in my class are carrying bass drums and glockenspiels and flutes. Psh, you'd think they'd put a few bongos or something for real like that. Then here comes Mr. Pearson with his clipboard and his cards and pencils and whistles and safety pins and 50 million other things that he's always dropping all over the place with his clumsy self. He sticks out in a crowd because he's on stilts. We used to call him Jack and the Beanstalk to get him mad, but I'm the only one who can outrun him and get away, and I'm too grown for that silliness now. Well, Squeaky, he says, checking my name off the list and handing me number 7 and 2 pins. And I'm thinking he's got no right to call me Squeaky if I can't call him Beanstalk. Hazel Elizabeth Deborah Parker, I correct him and tell him to write it on his board. Well, Hazel Elizabeth Deborah Parker, gonna give someone else a break this year? I squint at him real hard to see if he is seriously thinking I should lose the race on purpose just to give someone else a break. Only 6 girls running this time, he continues, shaking his head sadly like it's my fault all of New York didn't turn out in sneakers. That new girl should give you a run for your money. He looks around the park for Gretchen like a periscope in a submarine movie. Wouldn't it be a nice gesture if you were to, I give him such a look he couldn't finish putting that idea into words. Grown-ups got a lot of nerve sometimes. I pin number 7 to myself and stomp away, I'm so burnt, and I go straight for the track and stretch out on the grass while the band winds up with "Oh, the monkey wrapped his tail around the flagpole," which my teacher calls by some other name. The man on the loudspeaker is calling everyone over to the track, and I'm on my back looking at the sky trying to pretend I'm in the country. But I can't, because even the grass in the city feels as hard as sidewalk, and there's just no pretending you are anywhere but in a concrete jungle, as my grandfather says. The 20-yard dash takes all of 2 minutes, 'cause most of the little kids don't know no better than to run off the track or run the wrong way or run smack into the fence and fall down and cry. One little kid, though, has got the good sense to run straight for the white ribbon up ahead, so he wins. Then the second graders line up for the 30-yard dash, and I don't even bother to turn my head to watch, 'cause Rafael Perez always wins. He wins before he even begins by psyching the runners, telling them they're going to trip on their shoelaces and fall on their faces or lose their shorts or something, which he doesn't really have to do since he is very fast. Almost as fast as I am. After that is the 40-yard dash, which I used to run when I was in first grade. Raymond is hollering from the swings 'cause he knows I'm about to do my thing, 'cause the man on the loudspeaker has just announced the 50-yard dash, although he might as well have just been given a recipe for angel food cake, 'cause you can hardly make out what he's saying for the static. I get up and I slip off my sweatpants, and then I see Gretchen standing at the starting line kicking out her legs like a pro. Then, as I get into place, I see that old Raymond is on line on the other side of the fence, bending down with his fingers on the ground just like he knew what he was doing. I was going to yell at him, but then I didn't. It burns up your energy to holler. Every time, just before I take off in a race, I always feel like I'm in a dream. The kind of dream you have when you're sick with a fever and feel all hot and weightless. I dream I'm flying over a sandy beach in the early morning sun, kissing the leaves of the trees as I fly by. And there's always the smell of apples, just like in the country when I was little, and used to think I was a choo-choo train running through the fields of corn and chugging up the hill to the orchard. And all the time I'm dreaming this, I get lighter and lighter, until I'm flying over the beach again, getting blown through the sky like a feather that weighs nothing at all. But once I spread my fingers in the dirt and crouch over the get on your mark, the dream goes and I am solid again. And I'm telling myself, Squeaky, you must win. You must win. You are the fastest thing in the world. You can even beat your father up Amsterdam if you really try. And then I feel my weight coming back just behind my knees, then down to my feet, then into the earth, and the pistol shot explodes in my blood, and I am off and weightless again, flying past the other runners, my arms pumping up and down, and the whole world is quiet except for the crunch as I zoom over the gravel in the track. I glance to my left, and there is no one. To the right, a blurred Gretchen, who's got her chin jutting out as if it itself would win the race. And on the other side of the fence is Raymond, with his arms down to his sides and the palms tucked up behind him, running in his very own style. And it's the first time I ever saw that, and I almost stopped to watch my brother Raymond on his first run. But the white ribbon is bouncing toward me, and I tear past it, racing into the distance till my feet, with a mind of their own, start digging up footfuls of dirt and break me short. Then all the kids standing on the side pile on me, begging me on the back and slapping my head with their Mayday programs. For I have won again, and everybody on 151st Street can walk tall for another year. In first place! The man on the loudspeaker is clear as a bell now. But then he pauses, and the loudspeaker starts to whine, then static. And I lean down to catch my breath. And here comes Gretchen walking back, for she's overshot the finish line too, huffing and puffing with her hands on her hips, taking it slow, breathing in steady time like a real pro, and I sort of like her a little for the first time. In first place! And then 3 or 4 voices get all mixed up on the loudspeaker, and I dig my sneaker into the grass and stare at Gretchen, who's staring back, we both wondering just who did win. I can hear old Beanstalk arguing with the man on the loudspeaker, and then a few other running their mouths about what the stopwatches say. And then I hear Raymond yanking at the fence to call me, and I wave to shush him, but he keeps rattling the fence like a gorilla in a cage, like in them gorilla movies. But then, like a dancer or something, he starts climbing up nice and easy, but very fast. And it occurs to me, watching how smoothly he climbs, hand over hand, and remembering how he looked running, with his arms down to his side, and with the wind pulling his mouth back and his teeth showing and all. And it occurred to me that Raymond would make a very fine runner. Doesn't he always keep up with me on my trots? And he surely knows how to breathe in counts of 7, 'cause he's always doing it at the dinner table, which drives my brother George up the wall. And I'm smiling to beat the band, 'cause if I've lost this race, or if me and Gretchen tied, or even if I've won, I can always retire as a runner and begin a whole new career as a coach with Raymond as my champion. After all, with a little more study, I can beat Cynthia and her phony self at the spelling bee. And if I bugged my mother, I could get piano lessons and become a star. And I have a big rep as the baddest thing around. And I've got a room full of ribbons and medals and awards. But what has Raymond got to call his own? So I stand there with my new plans, laughing out loud by this time, as Raymond jumps down from the fence and runs over with his teeth showing and his arms down to the sides, which no one before him has quite mastered as a running style. And by the time he comes over, I'm jumping up and down, so glad to see him, my brother Raymond, a great runner in the family tradition. But of course, everyone thinks I'm jumping up and down because the men on the loudspeaker have finally gotten themselves together and compared notes and are announcing. In first place, Miss Hazel Elizabeth Deborah Parker. Dig that. In second place, Miss Gretchen P. Lewis. And I look over at Gretchen, wondering what the P stands for. And I smile, 'cause she's good, no doubt about it. Maybe she'd like to help me coach Raymond. She obviously is serious about running, as any fool can see, and she nods to congratulate me. And then she smiles, and I smile, and we stand there with this big smile of respect between us. It's about as real a smile as girls can do for each other, considering we don't practice real smiling every day, 'cause maybe we're too busy being flowers or fairies or strawberries instead of being something honest and worthy of respect. Like being people. All right, guys, that's our story for today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoy reading it aloud. I love that story. I wanted to bump up here. Actually, first, I want to go down and look at what your job is going to be today for workshop. I think it's important to preview this because I'm going to actually then go back and model this work in Raymond's run for us. But I want to make sure that you're clear on what the expectation is first before I go to model that. So if you look here, it specifically says today in workshop that I want you to pick a part of your own short story that seems to reveal your character. I'm not even asking you guys to go in there and annotate everything. I'm looking for you to annotate a certain part where you feel like you learned something about the character in your story. I'm going to have you go back then after you've selected that part and reread it and start underlining key words that really stick out to you and really mean something about your character, okay? Once you've done that, and like I said at the beginning, you've got to move your story over into your Lit Essay working notebook, and then you need to pick your part. And then I want you to go in and start just jotting notes down. If at any point in time you get stuck with your note jotting and you feel like you can't go any further or you haven't gotten very much done, it might be a good idea to just try to write long. Just say like, I think my character is this because blah, 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 and start going off about it, okay? So let me show you this in our story. That's what you're going to do today in your stories. So let me show you. I'm going to go back to this part that I had highlighted or in turquoise. So we're talking about everything that has turquoise around it right here. I'm just going to do this very quickly because obviously I've already kind of done the thinking and I've picked out the ideas and labeled what I needed to. You guys, this obviously will take a little bit longer for you because you actually have to find the idea first and everything like that. So you're going to have to go through that whole process. The thing that I noticed, though, the most right off the bat about Squeaky in this story is that she's super protective. And I think it's fairly obvious that she protects her brother. Like, that is an easy answer for something that she protects. But she also protects her reputation because she talks about how she's like the biggest, baddest thing around. She also has this reputation as like a really fast runner that she's trying to protect and all these different things. So this idea of protection, I'm noticing popping up in multiple locations in this story. So it's something that I've determined that I want to track. So you can see that in what I'm doing here. This first note up here at the top by paragraph 1, I said that they included this to show that it's hard work to protect him. This part of he's not quite right and how they talk about how he's like minding her brother is work, it's enough work itself, and talking about his big head or anything like that. I think they're really trying to impress upon the reader that Raymond does have some difficulties. He may have some special needs maybe. And I think that that's important to point out because we're trying to, the author really wants the reader to understand what a hard job it is to mind her brother Raymond, and why he needs so much protecting. So that's kind of where I was at with paragraphs 1 and 2 there. there. Down in paragraph 3, I thought that was a really good example of her protecting her reputation. That specific part where she's like, but that's private information. Like, they're keeping that to themselves because she doesn't want it to get out that somebody might actually be faster than her. Going down in here to paragraph 4, which was the last one that I highlighted. I saw more examples of her protecting Raymond, not only, you know, from just, from maybe from other people, but also like from himself, from making like the bad choices of stepping into the water or running across the street and things like that. She also then goes on at the end of the 4th paragraph there to give another example of how she protects her reputation, because like she's fine with whatever from Raymond as long as he's not interrupting, you know, what she needs to get done for running. So guys, those are just some really, really quick examples that I found in the story in just one location, where this idea of being protective was like kind of like really popping out to me in various places. That is what I need you to, I even did another one down here, even though it wasn't in my spot. But guys, I really want you guys to try to clue in with this today. You're gonna need to read your stories. You're gonna have to read your stories with the lens of trying to figure out who your character is. What does the author want you to think about this character? And then try to figure out what does the author do in the story that actually makes that happen, that makes you believe what the author wants you to believe. That's your lens. So go at those stories right now, guys, and start jotting some notes and annotating your text to pull out the words and phrases that really capture who your character is. All right, guys? That's the lesson for today. Get after it, do great work, and we will look at our notes on Tuesday when we come back after the long weekend. All right? Love you. Bye. Mwah.